Welcome to Two Movie Guys, two Texas critics talking about the movies. And now, here's Sean and Joe, Two Movie Guys.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Two Movie Guys. Two Movie Guys talking about this week's new movies. I'm Sean McBride. People know me as Sean the Movie Guy in Beaumont, Texas, and in Boise, Idaho. And I'm joined by my good friend, Joe Friar. And Joe, where do people know you from?
Dallas, Fort Worth. I write reviews for the Fort Worth Report in Dallas, and I also host a radio show in Victoria, Sean.
Very good. And Joe and I are friends. We've known each other for decades now. I guess that means we're getting old, my friends. So anyway, let's get right to it. We've got some new movies to talk about, so let's do the rundown. This week's list of new movies, there's a bunch of them. Some of them are good. Some of them are mediocre. Let's be honest here. But in theaters this week, we have Argylle, which is going to be your big picture of the week. We also have a movie called Scrambled, which I didn't get to see this one. And then we've also got a film in specialty theaters called The Promised Land. And then on home streaming, we will talk about Orion in the Dark and a Sundance movie that's going on to Hulu this week called Suncoast. So let's kick things off with the big picture.
The big picture.
Oh my God, you're Ellie friggin' Conway.
Author of Argylle series, Ellie Conway!
I am such a fan.
Oh yeah? What is it you do?
Espionage.
Would you sign my book?
Here we go.
Okay, so this big movie this week is gonna be Argylle, a $200 million movie directed by Matthew Vaughn. He's the guy that did The Kingsman. And it stars Bryce Dallas Howard as a novelist, and she is writing spy fiction. And the problem is that some of her novels seem to be hewing a little too closely to what's actually going on in the spy world. So much so that she's on a train one day when a whole bunch of assassins attack her and trying to kill her or kidnap her. It's not quite sure. Fortunately, there's another spy on the train, and he is going to be there. He's a spy. He's a good guy spy, and he's played by Sam Rockwell. And he kicks the butts of all the other spies, and they go off on an adventure. And I can tell you more about the plot, but I don't want to because it's got so many spoilers in it. Spoilers that I think Matthew Vaughn thinks are very cool. And I'll be honest with you, I think they're predictable and kind of lame at times. But suffice it to say, they have a big old, globe-trotting spy adventure that is part comedy, part action. Matthew Vaughn is always known for making these kind of tongue-in-cheek action adventures. Think about The Kingsman, for example, the movies that he does. As a matter of fact, the cut scene of this movie tries to tie directly into the Kingsman cinematic universe. I guess that's the thing now. But Argylle stars, like I said, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, Henry Cavill. He's playing the spy itself when they dramatize the actual book. But also John Cena, Dua Lipa, Ariana DeBose, Bryan Cranston, Samuel L. Jackson, Catherine O'Hara. He's got a huge cast. It's a $200 million movie. It's a big thing. So it's going to be a big hit. Isn't it right, Joe? What do you think?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, just listening to you describe the movie, it was confusing me. I mean, if you watch the trailer, it's confusing. It's very convoluted. The storyline gets better after there's a twist in the middle of the film, which we're not going to tell you what that is. But I mean, yeah, it's very convoluted. It's like a story within a story. It's overblown. The CGI is really, really bad. I was very surprised on how bad the CGI, Sean, was in this film. I mean, it makes the last few Fast and Furious movies seem like convincible and conceivable dramas. Even the one where they go to space, that was more believable than some of the things that happen in Argylle. Like I said, the storyline is convoluted. It's confusing. There's a twist. And after the twist, everything makes sense. But then there's the wacky finale. It looks like a music video. It's ridiculous. There's oil skating. You'll find out what that is if you go see it. It runs too long. It's 2 hours and 19 minutes. Bryce Dallas Howard looks uninspired. Henry Cavill looks like Vanilla Ice. He went from a Superman look to a Vanilla Ice haircut.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of stars who are just passing time collecting paychecks, like Samuel L. Jackson. The best part of this movie is Sam Rockwell. He's funny, he's entertaining, but he can't carry the whole movie.
I agree with you. So, Dua Lipa, which I think is interesting because they certainly marketed this off of her. She's in the first scene and then she's gone. I thought that was funny. And I'm with you. I disagree that I think the twists were pretty stupid, actually. But that end finale was so bonkers. And I sat there watching both the oil skating gunfight and also there's one right before that that's this colored smoke thing that looks like it's a sexy dance / killing people gunfight. And I spent the whole time rolling my eyes thinking, do I hate this or is this so bad that I kind of love it for its camp appeal? So this is a miss. I'm with you, Joe. I think this is a miss. Skip Argylle. Let's move on. So
Yeah, I think
okay.
we can file Argylle under eyes only classified. Unfortunately, it's for no one's eyes.
There you go. So I agree. So also in theaters this week is The Promised Land in specialty theaters. Joe, tell us about Promised Land.
Yeah, well, this is an 18th century, it takes place in the 18th century Denmark. It's brought an impoverished war hero, Captain Ludwig Gallem, who sets out to tame a vast uninhabitable land on which seemingly nothing can grow. This beautiful but forbidding area is under the rule of Frederick de Schnickel, a merciless nobleman who realizes the threat that Colin represents to his power. And as a new community starts to settle in, the Schnickel swears vengeance, leading to a violent and intense confrontation between the two men. And of course, this stars my boy, Mads Mikkelsen. I'm a huge fan of this Danish actor. I think he's great. So before I give you my take on The Promised Land, Sean, what did you think of the movie?
You know, I'm with you. I think Mads Mikkelsen is the reason to see this. I think visually it's pretty good. I always say, you know, if you're going to make a movie, hire God to be your cinematography because the outdoor vistas half the time just do, you know, much of the work here. And they're quite bleak and foreboding. And that adds to the feel of this movie. And I do kind of like that this ends up being a movie about two men who refuse to give in and they just go head to head. I think it's a pretty good movie. Arguably the best movie out this week. We'll have some quibbles later on, but I think this is a very good movie.
Yeah, well, you know, it's an epic film. I think it's some of the best work by Mads Mikkelsen. He's great in this. Amanda Collin, who plays Anne Barbara, is terrific in the movie. She's an immigrant who escaped from de Schnickel's treachery, and she works the land, the heath with Ludwig, and she has an unforgettable scene that, for me, becomes the film's highlight towards the end. Simon Benneberg, who is great as the Weasley villain, de Schnickel. It's really Schnickel, but he wants everyone to call him de Schnickel.
Sounds better, doesn't it?
Yeah. And Melina Hagbird, who plays the little dark-skinned girl, Anami Moose, she melts your heart, man. She's a little harsh at first. There's really a couple of heartbreaking moments in the film that, you know, when she hands the stick because she wants Mads Mikkelsen to be more or less her father and join the clan, and he rejects it. Man, that's just heartbreaking. And there's quite a few heartbreaking moments in this movie. The cinematography, like you said, Sean, is absolutely grand and breathtaking. It's a very emotional movie, especially during the final chapter. And about the ending, I can see where the ending, some people may say it's a cop-out after all that we've been through in the film, but I think after the arduous journey that these characters went through, I kind of enjoyed the ending, but I see where that may be a little bit of a deal breaker for some people. Yeah, I really enjoy it.
I agree with you there. And I also like that this film does deal with issues of sexism, sexual assault, racism, a lot of things that I did not think I was going to see in this movie that end up working their way in. Like, I'm with you, Joe. I think this is a very good movie. I agree with you that ending is going to be problematic for some people, but certainly the best movie in theaters this week.
Sure. And it's showing at art house theaters, so that one may be one you have to seek out, but it's worth seeking out.
What's playing at home?
You want to be a normal teenager. I got news for you. You're not normal, Doris.
Who's Doris?
I am.
The next film on our list is Suncoast. Now, I caught this one at Sundance. It's about a teenager played by Nico Parker who's living with her strong-willed mother, played by the wonderful Laura Linney, who must take her terminally ill brother to a hospice facility. I know it's dark. There's some dark stuff in here. She strikes up an unlikely friendship with an eccentric activist played by Woody Harrelson at protests surrounding a landmark medical case. This is based on, I guess it's semi-autobiographical. Laura Chin, who directed and wrote it, it's based on her life, and she's pretty much the Nico Parker character.
Right.
Regardless of the subject matter and the few emotional scenes that will have you reaching for the tissues, Suncoast is surprisingly a very uplifting film, thanks to writer-director Laura Chin's funny script, which, like I said, is semi-autobiographical. And the selling point here, of course, is Laura Linney as Christine. She's terrific, and she's the best thing about this movie. There's a couple of other things I liked about it. I'll get to those in a second. But first, Sean, what'd you think about it?
Yeah, I'll disagree with you. I think the best thing about this movie is Nico Parker, who is a young actress who it's kind of her screen debut. She was a voice in How to Train Your Dragon. She is a young woman who I think has movie star written all over her. Physically, she reminds me of a young Tandy Newton, and I think she's really good at playing a troubled teen who just cries out for someone to take care of her. And that's the stuff that I loved about this movie. I'm with you. The ending here, I'm kind of like, crying my eyes out even just thinking about it. Very emotional ending. And Laura Linney playing this mother who is neglecting her daughter because she's spending all of her time caring for her son who is dying. He's terminally ill. He's in hospice. It makes sense that she would neglect the daughter, but you understand why the daughter desperately needs her mama, which is why she strikes up a relationship with the Woody Harrelson character, which, I'll be honest with you, is a little weird because through modern eyes, a 50-year-old guy and a 16-year-old girl suddenly becoming a relationship. But it's a parental, he teaches her to drive and such, and so it's kind of sweet, even though, alarm bells may go off for some characters here. I thought all that stuff was great. The problem for me is that it's tied in real life to the Terry Schiavo case, the woman that was on hospice and her husband tried to remove the feeding tube and let her die after 15 years of, being in a vegetative state, and all these protesters outside trying to save Terry Schiavo's life. And that's real life, but it's also stuff I didn't care at all about because I didn't think it really added to this movie. And all the scenes of this young woman trying to fit in with the Mean Girls clique. We think they're mean girls. They actually turn out to be a nice girls clique at her high school. That I thought it got a little scattershot. It reminds me of a new director. This is Laura Chin's first movie, I think, and it just scattershot and a little meandering. But when it focuses on the mother-daughter relationship and then the daughter parental figure that she found out on the streets relationship, I thought that was wonderful. It's just a little scattershot for me.
Okay. Well, I will agree with that. Nico Parker is great in this film. Sometimes she reminds me of a young, even though she's not even that old, but a young Zendaya. There's a little bit about her that reminds me of Zendaya. Nico Parker's character is modeled after Chin, who in the Q&A at Sundance talked about, the movie was based on her real life, and her brother was really in a hospice at the time that Terry Schiavo was in there, and that's why that's included in the film. I think there's a lot of people that will watch this movie who don't remember that case or won't remember that case or think it's fabricated. Maybe they don't remember it because, they're young viewers that are going to this movie. But I mean, that's where that comes in. For a movie that's got a lot of darkness in it and, hospice, what I liked about it was that Chin's script was really funny. I think Laura Linney is great. I loved her in Ozark, and she brings a part of her Ozark character to this movie. But, it's a coming of age film with Nico Parker in there. Then you have Laura Linney as the overbearing mom. She's great in the film. I'm right with you on the Woody Harrelson thing. I thought Woody Harrelson, he's gentle. It's a gentle performance. He's this enjoyable person. He's a widower who befriends Nico. Some of that feels kind of fabricated. And you're right, there's a creepy element, but it never goes there. But we have to believe that they become really good friends. He's not crucial to the story, but I think he's welcomed here for sure. It's a coming of age film. It tackles serious issues. It takes place in the 2000s. They have that Terry Schiavo, which is based on reality, and Laura Chen's real life. It's grounded in reality, but I say see it for Laura Linney. You're right. Also see it for Nico Parker, but a little bit of off balance, but I think it's a very good film, and I think it's worth everyone's time to go out and see it. And you can catch it on Hulu.
Yeah, on Hulu this week. And sometimes you just want a good cry. You know, Joe, you and I, every year, because we're members of the Broadcast Film Critics Association, the Critics' Choice Awards that we vote for, we have a category for young actor. And right now, I have a hard time imagining that anybody will steal my votes over Nico Parker in this role. That's how impressed I was for her. I know it's very early. Something can happen between now and then, but I really thought she was great. So.
My name's Orion, and I'm afraid. Afraid of what, you want to know? It's most things, to be candid. Girls in general. Being responsible for my team losing. Giving the wrong answer in class. Richie Panici.
Good night, Orion.
But all the things I'm afraid of, I'm most afraid of the dark.
Okay, one more film to talk about, and this is called Orion and the Dark. It is over on Netflix, and basically it's a story about a kid. A story is written by Charlie Kaufman, of all people. I found that interesting because it's an animated film. And it's about a kid played by Jacob Tremblay. It's an animated film, so it's voiced by Jacob Tremblay. And he is a very anxious kid. He's scared of everything. He's scared of the bullies at his middle school. He's scared of falling off a building to his death. He's a very anxiety-ridden kid. Most of all, he is scared of the dark. And he's far too old to have to sleep with the door open every night or jump into bed with his parents. And his mom and dad are saying, come on, buddy, you got to get over this. One night, a supernatural being known as the Dark shows up. And that's played by Paul Walter Hauser. And the Dark says, look, you don't need to be scared of me, man. I do all sorts of great things. Let me show you what I do. And they go off on an adventure at night. And the Dark introduces him to all these other supernatural beings that are there because of the Dark. So you have, Dream is in that realm, but also Insomnia, and also a character known as Strange Scary Noises. So it's Charlie Kaufman wrote this thing. So it's very quirky. It's got a lot of really nice adult films, where jokes, that you're going, oh, the kids won't get that at all, but it made me chuckle. But I thought it was sweet, and I love that it was a performance that was aimed at kids with anxiety, because we see a lot of movies that feature plucky, courageous kids that just are going to do the right thing. But I think sometimes we need films for children who have some other issues that they need to work through. And here's one that shows them, hey, look, if you put if you go for it and you support your friends, you can get over your anxieties. I really thought this was a good movie. I was surprised at how much I liked it. Been a lot of kids movies here, and I'm not sure I think the animation is anything special. It looks like a typical computer animated film. It's from DreamWorks, and so they make Kung Fu Panda and the like, and so they know how to make these things and make them look good. But I don't think it's anything special. But the performances I thought were pretty good. And the concept and the writing I thought were really kind of wonderful. Credit that to, Charlie Kaufman, the writer, and then to the voice cast. A really good film. So over on Netflix, check that one out, particularly if you're a parent and you've got a kid. It's aimed at middle schoolers, who's got some issues with anxiety as well. They may want to see it.
Yeah, I don't think, I guess if you go back, you can go back like a decade. I don't think you and I ever thought that we'd be talking about a Charlie Kaufman animated movie that's aimed for the family. But I mean, it's out there. The good thing about this, yeah, sure, it has some frightening stuff. It's got some supernatural elements. But I mean, now, kids these days, they're thrown adult themes, which I think is great because it teaches kids to learn to think themselves. If you go back and you look at all these great G-Kids films, that's what I love about G-Kids films. Not only is the animation great in those, but of course, the subject matter is got adult themes in it. It causes kids to think. There's a lot of heartbreak. There's death in these G-Kids films. Same thing if you go back and look at Coraline. Coraline, I remember when I first saw that with my daughter, it's our favorite film together. She was very young, but it's very scary, and there were some adult themes in that as well. So I like it that animators these days are pushing the envelope, and they're not scared to to throw in more adult-oriented stuff for young kids. It's not inappropriate, and it causes them to think about some of these things that eventually, as adults, they'll be forced to contend with.
Yeah, I love that. Remember, the original fairy tales were designed for adults and kids, so they had lots of violence and all those issues and stuff. And it wasn't until we started Disneyifying these movies and, you know, taking out all the stressful stuff that we lost that. And so I'm with you. And by the way, I'm also with you. I love Coraline, one of my favorite films of all time as well. So
Yeah, great movie.
okay, there we have it. This week's movies, and next week it's kind of a weird week. Next week we have Lisa Frankenstein in theaters. We do have Pixar's Turning Red, which I thought was a wonderful film being re-released into movie theaters, and we also have The Taste of Things, which is France's. They didn't release that. We'll talk about the Academy Awards and with regards to The Taste of Things versus Anatomy of a Fall and how France may have. You know, they took a shot and they may have missed out on an Oscar because of their beliefs in The Taste of Things. But anyway, lots of good stuff coming up here, Joe. Great chatting with you. Remind everybody, if you like this, please subscribe either to the podcast or to our videos here on YouTube. So
yeah, and Sean, one more thing I wanted to mention also, you know, next week when we cover the new releases for next week, one film that I want to let everyone know about right now that I can't wait to cover next week is called Out of Darkness. It's a Bleecker Street film. It's going to be in theaters. You know, if you liked the last Predator movie that had the whole Native American theme, it came out during the pandemic. One of the biggest mistakes with that movie that they